What is going on, everybody? Good morning. Good morning, my people. Wednesday, February 4th, 8 a.m. Tomorrow, NBA trade deadline. No sleeping tonight, guys. Get some coffee. Got some work to do. A lot could happen in the next 28 hours. All right? Get your ish together. Thank you very much for being here. Cheers to you this morning. Hope you're enjoying your cup of coffee. This is cup number 2. I got to tell you, right now, this coffee is hitting very, very well. Very, very well. There's sometimes coffee doesn't do much in the morning. This morning, fuel. Straight gasoline. Now, we got a busy show today. Very busy show. We got a guest as well. I'm going to spend the first 45 minutes breaking down yesterday's box score between the Lakers and the Nets. It was so good last night. Such a good game. If that's not on ESPN Classics later today, then I don't know what we're doing. I don't even think ESPN Classics exists. We got a busy show. Let me give everyone a quick rundown of what we're going to do. We'll spend some time, obviously, looking at some of the comments as well. Should be a fun show today. Like I said, it's going to be packed. A lot of stuff going on. A lot of moving parts around the NBA. One of my favorite times of the year. I got a couple different times of the season that are my favorite times in the NBA. NBA free agency leading up to free agency, phenomenal. NBA playoffs, you're talking to an NBA guy here. I love the playoffs. And then NBA trade deadline. This is always obviously a fun time to be talking hoops. So thank you very much for being here. Here's what we got going on. Where is it? Right here. Here's the topics. All the topics laid out for you. 5-3 road trips. 5-3 road trip. We'll spend a little time. Spend very, very little time talking about last night's game, but we'll talk about the Lakers 5-3 road trip. Austin Reaves is back. How much of a difference can Austin Reaves make for the Lakers? Is he this just complete game changer that now some of these games you were losing against teams over 500, all of a sudden you start beating? That's going to really be the biggest question when it comes to Austin Reaves, is just how much of a difference is he going to make? We'll spend a little time talking about that. Got some interesting kind of developments here. If you're a Laker fan, you got to be kind of hoping and praying that Giannis Antetokounmpo does not get traded before tomorrow's deadline. Because according to Mark Stein, Lakers have a viable chance, a real shot at Giannis. We can get to the summer. So the next 28 hours critical for the Lakers, not because something's going to go down now, but something that can go down in the future. So something to keep in mind there. We'll hit on it. I saw an article Dan Weike put in The Athletic that talked about some different players. Jarrett Allen's name came up. All right, maybe there's a path or a way for the Lakers to get Jarrett Allen, and the question's going to be, is that what you want to use if you're going to give up a first-round pick and another team out there just wants a first-rounder, they want expiring contracts, you're kind of waiting for that situation where there's a team out there, that's kind of what they're looking for. That could be the case with Jarrett Allen and the Cleveland Cavaliers. Is that the type of player that you want on this Lakers team? LeBron staying, we know that. There was an article about that yesterday. Dalton Connect looking for a fresh start. No real shock or surprise there, but we'll spend a little bit of time on both of those topics. Eric Pincus, who covers the NBA, does a phenomenal job, part of Bleacher Report. He's going to be joining the show in about 25 minutes. So 8:30, I got Eric Pincus coming on. We'll talk about some of the NBA trades from yesterday, some of the different rumors that are still going on around the NBA. Of course, James Harden, Jaren Jackson Jr., some other trades that went down, and some other potential trades that could be going down. We'll hit on NBA news, and then we'll call it a day. No Laker game tonight, so we'll be chilling tonight. Obviously, if anything goes down or happens, I'll come back. I'll do something live just based on anything cooking in the Laker world. Thank you very much for being here. Appreciate you guys being a part of the channel and the show. I'm going to use a quick second here to try to tell people that if you're not subscribed to the channel, if you can please subscribe. This channel actually does really, really good from that perspective of typically people that are visiting the channel are probably already subscribed. So thank you very much for subscribing. If you haven't, please consider it. If you want to consider being a member show coming up on Friday. So Friday, we're going to do a member show probably at 10 a.m. again. 10 a.m. member show. Looking forward to having everybody and shooting the you-know-what with members. $3 a month to join if you want to support the channel. Let's take a look at a couple of the comments here before we get the show started, and we will go from there. See what we got here from people. Slee, what happens if Braun is still the best option and the renewal vibes aren't realistic? Yeah, I still think no matter what, if he's coming back to the Lakers at any shape, way, or form next season, it's going to be a lot different than what his current contract looks like. Glad to see AR back. Time to grind. Yeah, I mean, we don't sleep on the night before, the day before the NBA trade deadline. We got work to do here. I mean, I hope everybody that's on this chat here is telling their letting the office know, letting their manager know that, hey, I might miss some time tomorrow. I might miss some time tonight. AR and 3 first round is going to be enough for Giannis. We'll find out. I'm not sure. I just know this, and we'll get into this topic. Talking Mark Stein here. Mark Stein is one of the best in the business, that the Lakers would have a realistic shot at Giannis if we can get to the summer. So I don't know if that's going to get it done, but what I would tell you is if you're another team out there trying to trade for Giannis, better get it done, because if you don't get it done, you're now allowing other teams who are going to have more draft assets and everything else to try to get into the mix by the time you get into the summer. Lakers aren't the only other team out there, by the way, that would go from 1 pick available to 3 picks available. So it tells you a little bit about, obviously where we are here. Okay, let's get the show started. Thank you very much for being here. Cheers to everybody. It's a good cup of coffee. I got to use that mic better when I'm drinking a cup of coffee. I want to sell it more. I want to sell that cup of coffee a little bit more. It's like a Folgers commercial. You guys remember those commercials? All right, let's get the show started. Thank you again for being here. So Lakers, I'm not going to spend too much time on what happened yesterday, because I do want to talk about the trade deadline, some of these rumors that are associated with the Lakers. But let's just get this part out of the way. Lakers end the Grammy trip 5-3. They beat Brooklyn yesterday, 124-109. Lakers at one point had the biggest lead they've had all season. They were up 39 against Brooklyn. And frankly, that tells me nothing, because everybody is demolishing the Brooklyn Nets. There are some teams, Pistons beat them by 53. Knicks beat them by 54. I mean, if you're not in that 30-plus range of beating the Brooklyn Nets, then you're not getting the job done. Lakers win. 2 things stood out to me from last night's game. Number 1, it was the end of the road trip. Number 2, Austin Reaves is back. That's it. Nothing else mattered. I don't care what LeBron did or Luka did. Jake LaRavia had 18. All right, awesome, fine. None of that stuff mattered because it was the Brooklyn Nets. The most important thing is Lakers finished their road trip 5-3, and Austin Reaves is back. I thought yesterday when I was doing the post-game show, I was explaining something that I think, give myself credit on this one, I think explains the Lakers very well. And I think this road trip is very indicative of what the Lakers have been all season. The Lakers had a good road trip record, 5-3. The Lakers have a good record overall, 30-19. But I thought the road trip indicated something very similar to their overall record. Lakers, every time they played a good team on this road trip, they took an L. Clippers they're a pretty decent team. I mean, look at the last month and a half. We'll see what happens now with Darius Garland and, obviously the trading James Harden away. But Clippers have been good for at least a month now. They've been playing good basketball. How did the Lakers look against the Clippers? They lost. Cavs are a pretty good team. They're kind of starting to make their statement in the Eastern Conference, moving up the standings, exactly what they should have been all season. They hadn't been. They played the Cleveland Cavaliers. They lost. Knicks are a pretty good team. They've won now 6-7 in a row. They're moving up in the standings. They're now number 2 in the Eastern Conference, kind of doing what they're supposed to be doing. Lakers played them. They lost. The 5-3 road trip indicated to me they can beat up on good teams or on bad teams. They got trouble against the good teams. The 30-19 record for me indicates that the Lakers, again, they could beat up on some of the bad teams, but anytime they play a good team that you're expecting hey, this is a great test, this is a great barometer game, Lakers don't typically win those games. They're 9-11. So I thought the road trip was a good road trip because they went 5-3. I would have loved to see them beat one of these teams that are either hot, playing well, or could be legitimate contenders that coming out of the Eastern Conference. Lakers were not able to do that. The 30-19 record kind of is what it is. I think it's a good record, fifth in the Western Conference. There's some holes we could poke into that record based off of how Lakers do against teams above 500. Okay, that's the road trip. That's kind of, in a nutshell, how I looked at that road trip for the Lakers. Without Austin Reaves, they kept their head above water. I think somebody was telling me, either it was last night or this morning, Austin Reaves missed, I think, a total of maybe 19 games, something like that, give or take a game or two. He missed a handful of games, and the Lakers didn't, drop in the standings. They weren't awful. They held their ground. They did what they had to do, and now Austin Reaves is back. So the 5-3 road trip, but the biggest news coming from yesterday was Austin Reaves is back. I'm going to play some sound here real quick because JJ Redick said something post-game talking about Austin Reaves. Reaves, by the way, had some quotes as well, just basically saying that he was bored. He was bored during this entire time. Obviously wanted to get back. That's all he cared about. Let's just take a listen. I'm sure for JJ Redick, this is big time for him and the team to have Austin Reaves back. The one question I do want to throw out to Laker fans here before we start getting into some of the other stuff, including Giannis and everything else, getting Austin Reaves back, how much is that going to change things? Do they now all of a sudden, those games they were losing against teams that were above 500, do you now expect them like, hey, they got a shot when they play the San Antonio Spurs? They got a shot when they take on the Denver Nuggets. I'm talking about with Jokic and everything else. They got a shot against the Houston Rockets. How much does just getting Austin Reaves back, do you think, change the dynamic for the Lakers? I'll throw that question out. I'll read some of your comments. Let's take a listen. Here's JJ Redick postgame.
What were your conversations like with him over the last week or so?
Well, I think, after probably, I don't know if it was after Cleveland or maybe it was Washington, but after one of those games, it was just like, I'm not going to ask him because everybody's going to ask him. So let's talk about other stuff. I've said this a number of times, but all these guys have a lot on their minds because of their contract situations, the trade deadline. Certainly Austin, he's in line for a pretty significant raise. And I think, having that confidence in your body is huge.
All right, that's JJ. I got to be honest with everybody. I'm not 100% sure how much getting Austin Reaves back, how much that's going to change the dynamic for the Lakers. I do know that I'd obviously much rather have Austin Reaves in the lineup than not have him. I do think it's going to take a lot of pressure off of Luka. I do think there's going to be moments where Austin Reaves can go off for 25, 30 points in any game, and that might take a little bit of pressure off of LeBron. It might make Ayton's job a little bit easier. It might take less pressure off of Marcus Smart's and Rui Hachimura's and Jake LaRavia's because that's how good Austin Reaves is. I don't know what that does to the Lakers when they start going up against these really good teams. I was looking at the Lakers schedule. I think I mentioned this last night in the postgame show as well. But I think this is a really good indicator of just how things are going to start becoming a lot tougher, which is good. I mean, I've said this before. I'd rather see the Lakers right now. Let's see them against some of the elite teams in the NBA and just kind of see who the hell they really are. Here's some of the games Lakers got coming up. Philly, OKC, San Antonio, Clippers, Boston, Phoenix, at Golden State, at Denver. And this is kind of over a course of the next month or so. And I skipped a couple of games on here that I think the Lakers will be able to win. But they've played the most road games of any team in the NBA, really good road record. So they're going to get some home cooking now. And if there's a time to not just take advantage of the games that you're going to have at home, but I think that this is going to be a point of the Lakers schedule where you're either going to start gaining people's confidence and fans' confidence and NBA people that cover the NBA and like, hey, Lakers are actually starting to beat some good teams, or it's going to be the same old story for the Lakers. And the biggest question is going to be, like I said, on the Austin Reaves part, how much is his impact going to be the difference of now all of a sudden you can beat teams that are above 500 rather now, you blow out the Wizards and you blow out the Chicago Bulls and you dominate against Brooklyn. But anytime you play a good team, you lose. And how much is that narrative going to change? We're going to find out. All right, let's start looking at some of the comments here. Before I do so, I do want to give a shout out to one of our partners, Harrah Resort SoCal. Between an hour and 2 hours away from anywhere you are in Southern California, a place that I was just at for a couple of days. I will just say this: if you're looking for a staycation, don't make this too complicated. It makes sense from a financial perspective. They got over 1,000 luxurious rooms. You get the whole resort feel that you're looking for, whether it's the spa or it's the lazy river or it's the swim up bar. You get the entertainment that you're looking for. Always have different acts, comedians, things like that are at the property. And probably most importantly, you don't have to get on a flight, pay round trip tickets to get somewhere. It just makes a lot more sense. It's located in North San Diego. Like I said, about an hour to 2 hours from wherever you are in Southern California. The Palomar Mountains, gorgeous drive getting out there as well. You got the mountains. You got just a beautiful feel coming out there where you really genuinely feel like you're going to a nice resort in a great area of Southern California. HarrahSoCal.com is the website. Again, HarrahSoCal.com if you're looking to book your stay. Thank you for, of course, supporting our partners. Austin is a difference maker. That kid is so good. Keep Reaves. The idea of trading him is insane. Depends who you're trading him for. We will know this week if Austin is a difference maker. I'm rooting for him. And this is not all on Austin Reaves. This is about just kind of the team as a whole, right? How much easier is it for these guys to play together, having a real all-star caliber player on your team? The question is not, is Austin Reaves a good player? The question is always going to be with the Lakers. Do all these pieces fit? Do they gel? And that's what I think. That's why I'm waiting and I'm looking forward to seeing what some of these games look like once the Lakers have some of these tougher opponents, because that's really the only question left with the Lakers. That's it. It's not, is Luka a superstar? He is. It's not, is LeBron still good at age 41? He's still pretty damn good. It's not, is DeAndre Ayton the future of the Lakers? He's not. Like we got a lot of answers. We got a lot of questions already answered for the Lakers so far this season. The only questions left is, what does Luka, LeBron, AR, Marcus Smart, Jake LaRavia, Rui Hachimura, DeAndre Ayton, Jackson, what do all of these guys look like together over a 15-game stretch? That's kind of the only question left. Can they be a headache to other teams? Can they get on one of those streaks where it's like, look, they played 5 teams that are above 500 and they went 4-1? Or did they go 2-3 and it's like it's the same old story? AR will give us a chance to keep some games close, though free throws and drawn fouls on key players. Okay, let's get a couple more in here. Austin doesn't change ish. He can't defend either. Okay. By the way, it kind of shows you a little bit all over the place. And I'm trying to be honest when I say this. I don't really know what to expect. I'm going to expect the Lakers to be better. I'm going to expect them to hang with some of the more elite teams. But is this roster good enough in the regular season to start kind of taking out some good teams? Well, that's what we're going to have to wait for. Slee, this homestand is going to tell everything we all need to know. They could go 1-5. Also, they are not a good three-point team. Got to change the offense. I don't think they're going 1-5. I don't think that's going to happen, but we'll go from there. Raptors was the last good win. You're right about that. Maybe Denver. I can make an argument at Denver was a good win, but we know how many injuries they have and how many players they're missing. Okay, let's keep moving here. Great comments, by the way. So I appreciate. All I wanted to do was kind of get a feel. I just wanted to get a feel of how Laker fans thought. Obviously, Austin Reaves comes back. That was the only storyline that was worth taking away from last night's game. And obviously, this road trip's over. Lakers come back tomorrow. They're playing the Philadelphia 76ers. And the trade deadline will be done by then. All right, let's talk trades here. See if we can. Let's try to actually pull this up. I want to share my screen with everybody here. I want to get this tweet from the Mark Stein article on the Stein line. And we're going to see if we could pop this up on the screen. This is also coming from NBA Central, who took the actual quote and, obviously put this thing together. there was some news yesterday that started circling here. And the conversation about Giannis Antetokounmpo has dominated the headlines for how long now? It's been a while, right? Like, we've seen how long these headlines have just been absolutely dominated. I'm going to actually pop this up here. I'm going to be able to do this on my own. Let me just get this up here. I'm going to share you guys my screen here, and we can go from there. So the story has been completely dominated over the course of, since the offseason. Everybody's been talking about Giannis Antetokounmpo. And I've said this before. There is only one path that the Lakers can get Giannis Antetokounmpo. And that's if Giannis says, I want to go be a Los Angeles Laker. And guys, I'm not trying to tell anybody here that Giannis is coming to the Lakers. But if Mark Stein says something, I'm going to listen. If Chris Haynes says something, I'm going to listen. If Brian Windhorst says something, there's a few of these NBA insiders. It's like, what did that person say? Mark Stein's one of those. If you have not subscribed to his Substack, by the way, I highly encourage it. I'm all over that thing, and it's well worth it. Here's what he said. But if the Bucks do ultimately decide to take this saga into the spring, the Lakers, league sources say, would then indeed become a very viable threat to land number 34. There is little choice for the Lakers heading into Thursday's deadline. They just don't have the assets. It's something we've been talking about, something everybody, if you know anything about just, from a basketball perspective, go look at what the Lakers, what they have. They can't even trade for Herb Jones. How the hell are they going to trade for Giannis? They don't have the assets. Let's keep reading on here. There's little choice for the Lakers heading into Thursday's deadline except to stay patient and avoid deals that involve any long-term salary to maintain maximum flexibility for the spring. The hope for the purple and gold would then be to use their considerable projected salary cap space to be able to take in a contract like Giannis Antetokounmpo's via trade or another expensive star if one shakes loose post playoffs. So this kind of game plan or blueprint is not just talking about Giannis, but is there another player that we're not talking about today that could be available by the time we get to the offseason? Last piece that he says here, and dealing with the Lakers in such a scenario would almost certainly spare the Bucks from getting saddled with unwanted contracts. The Lakers obviously can offer some contract relief. They can offer Austin Reaves, and they could offer 3 first-rounders. Let's go back just to the beginning here. This is the only part that I care about. If the Bucks do ultimately decide to take the saga into the spring, the Lakers, league sources say, would then indeed become a very viable threat to land number 34. That's big news right there. That's not, I like to consider myself not being somebody that's looking for drama. I just try to talk Lakers and NBA, and I'm good. I don't need to have the drama be what this show's about. You guys kind of know me. You guys know my personality. That's big effing news. What that means right there is you better hope the Golden State Warriors, the Minnesota Timberwolves, I've seen Portland Trailblazers' name randomly brought up. You better hope all these other teams out there, the Miami Heat, it's been a team that's been brought up, even though it's been quieter for them. I think the most noise has been the Golden State Warriors and the Minnesota Timberwolves. If we could get to Friday, February 6th, and Giannis Antetokounmpo still has not been traded, Lakers might actually have a shot here at Giannis. And listen, that doesn't mean more teams are not going to have assets by the time you get to the summer, but it means the Lakers will actually have assets to at least say, well, we could put together a package. By that point, you could also kind of get into the head of Giannis Antetokounmpo. Is there a path where Giannis Antetokounmpo starts saying to himself, I can play in a big market, which I've been asking for. I could play with a 26-year-old superstar that's top 5 in the league. I could play for this new ownership potentially that will probably do whatever the hell I ask them to do. And I could realistically compete for an NBA championship, but do it with the Los Angeles Lakers. That to me is part of what Mark Stein is putting in his Substack, and obviously I'm reading that tweet off of NBA Central, taking what Mark Stein said. That's interesting stuff right there. For all I know, in the next 3 hours, he's going to get traded and all this is done. It's gone. But I could at least sit here and have that conversation with you right now. If Mark Stein thinks it's viable if we get to the summer, why the hell would another Laker fan think that it's not viable? Maybe there's a little posturing here. Maybe there's a little bit of, reports that go out there to drive the price up a little bit. So maybe the Golden State Warriors and the Minnesota Timberwolves are like, we're not going to wait to try to negotiate against the Lakers or Miami or some of these other teams that can get involved in the summer. Maybe the San Antonio Spurs, Oklahoma City Thunder, other teams that can get involved. We got to go out there and make a move. And maybe that's all this is just posturing. And it's kind of a good strategy to drive the price up a little bit. But it's one of the first times that I'm hearing a real big-time reporter that's saying they can have a shot if we get to the summer. For those out there, which I'll look at some of the comments here, and I'm sure there's a few of these out there. For those out there that are saying that, yeah, I don't know about Giannis and, some of his injury history and this and that, fair. That's fine. He's had some injuries specifically this year as well that have been a little bit concerning. But at the end of the day, if you can get literally 2 of the top 5 players on the same roster, yeah, I'll take my chances, and so would anybody else. Yes, Giannis, there's an age difference between what Giannis is and what Luka is, but I'll tell you what Giannis is. Giannis is a real superstar. And I'm not trying to take a shot here at Anthony Davis, but AD at his best, it was like, oh my God, look how good Anthony Davis is. He ain't Giannis. And Giannis has won an NBA championship as the best player on a team. And obviously Giannis has won an MVP, and we know Giannis's resume. If there's a shot at Giannis Antetokounmpo, that's some big news right there. So let's see what happens. I think at the end of the day, I think the biggest question is going to be what happens over the course of this next day or two. And then we could take it from there. So let's read some of the comments. I'd love to see what people got to say and what their opinions are and go from there. Look, I think this is a difference. You could say we can dream, Slee. I don't think you got to dream. I think you just got to get through these next couple of days. And if the Lakers are able to get through these next couple of days and put themselves in a position where they can have all their assets in the summer, then it might be a realistic shot. Let's put it this way. If there's 5 teams that have a chance in the summer, Lakers would be one of those teams. Right now, as we sit here today, they got no shot at Giannis. What are they going to offer? There's nothing to offer. But if you could get to the summer and now all of a sudden you got a 20% chance of getting Giannis Antetokounmpo, that's a legitimate, real chance. Let's get to some more of these comments. I personally don't want Giannis. They need depth. J.M. Ball. Thank you for the super brother. I appreciate your $1.99 contribution. I definitely can't agree with you on this one. Again, I'm going to go back to what I said. In the NBA, not to say depth isn't important. Depth is very important. We've seen Laker teams go out and make playoff runs. We've seen the Denver Nuggets, the Milwaukee Bucks, the Oklahoma City Thunder, the Boston Celtics. Depth is obviously a big-time piece. You know what you don't hear from teams making a finals run that don't have legitimate, real star power? And in the NBA, if you're able to have 2 of the top 10, 15 players, you got a shot at winning a 7-game set against anybody. So, of course, that part is an interesting conversation. Thank you for the super brother. I appreciate it. Let me get a couple more comments in here, and then we'll keep the show rolling here. We don't sleep, but Pelinka is until the summer. MG saying basically Pelinka's asleep at the wheel. Listen, I've said this before. I'm sure right now Pelinka would love to do some deals. I'm sure Pelinka right now would love to, and I know a lot of Laker fans get frustrated with this. They talk about, the flexibility, and the Lakers have put themselves in a position where in the summer they can go out there and maybe they'll have 3 first-rounders if they don't make a move. I understand what the Lakers are trying to do, and I also understand if you're Rob Pelinka, why are you going to throw your only first rounder that you have right now if you don't think that that's a piece that is the right piece for the future? Don't do something just to do something. You're at best the top 5 team in the Western Conference. So it's not like you're going to be a favorite in any of these series once the playoffs start. You can be a little bit more strategic with it. I'd have more concern if they're just throwing picks everywhere. And, we've used the poker analogy before. It's like you have 9-8, and it's not even suited. And you're like, yeah, I'm going all in. What? That doesn't make any sense. All right. Quick shout out here to one of our partners, and I'm going to get to Eric Pincus. Shout out to Brad Wallace and the Wallace firm. Serious injury, wrongful death case. He's the best injury attorney in the state of California. Shout out to Brad Wallace for being a partner now. 2nd year in a row on YouTube. Greatly appreciate his partnership. He believes in the channel. Somebody that used to partner with me when I was on radio, now following us independently as well. WallaceWins.com/Sliwa. WallaceWins.com/Sliwa. If you go on that website, get an absolutely free consultation. I hope you never need him. I hope you never need an injury attorney, but things do happen in life. And like I said, he can help anybody, but you just got to go to that website, fill out that free consultation. Someone from the Wallace firm will reach out to you, and they'll roll up their sleeves and go to work for you. And shout out to everybody. A lot of people have met Brad Wallace because he's come on the show, so everybody knows him. Big Laker fan, and certainly somebody that you could trust in the industry. WallaceWins.com/Sliwa. All right. Thank you to all the comments out there. I appreciate everybody. And thank you to everybody also supporting our partners. Let's get to our guest. The man, the myth, the legend, Eric Pincus. What's up, brother?
How we doing? Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you? Okay, so listen, I know you've told me this before. You said getting up sometimes that's not you're usually working until the wee hours of the night. So thank you for doing this.
Of course. Yeah, not a morning guy, but for you, always willing to make that exception.
Thank you, buddy. I appreciate that. Okay, let's hit on the topic we were just hitting on. Mark Stein yesterday on his Substack had mentioned that if we can get past this trade deadline, there becomes a viable chance, and that's the exact quote here, that the Lakers may be able, I'm not telling you they're a favorite. I'm not saying that, it's guaranteed to happen. There's other teams that are going to have more assets once they get to the summer as well. I know Miami's one of those teams. Certainly the Lakers will then have 3 first-rounders. My first question to you would be, do you feel like we get in the next 30 hours, we're talking about Giannis on another team? Or do you think it's kind of too complicated and potentially difficult to try to make this big of a trade for Giannis in the next, you can call it 28 hours or so?
So I think there are 2 different elements you asked there. No, it's not too complicated. Like if they want a deal, they can get a deal done. I don't think the complication is the problem. I mean, it's an obstacle, but it's overcomable. We saw last year, Jimmy Butler got dealt in a very complicated trade to the Warriors. So no, that's not the holdup. From what I understand, and caveat is that not everyone knows the full story. People lie, people posture. You used a poker analogy. The NBA, in terms of building a team, is like 30 poker games or whatever. Everyone's got their own strategy. So just with all that caveat aside, the buzz from teams is that they think the Bucks are information gathering so that they can make a deal this summer. And their ask is believed to be like right now, like 4 picks and a young star. So how many teams right now can offer 4 picks? Obviously the Thunder can, but they're not, interested based on their situation. Spurs, you start going down the list, they're not going to include Wembanyama and picks. They're not including Wembanyama, period. So you just go whittle it off. And then you have to start to whittle off the teams that Giannis may not want to go to. And he may, threaten or through his agent say, yeah, I'm not going to go there and stay there. So it gets very complicated very quickly by the ask, not necessarily the system or the rules or the aprons or all these excuses. I just think the Bucks have a once in a multi-generational talent that they're trying to move. It's the most important player they've had since Kareem Abdul-Jabbar,
Sure.
right? So for them to move Giannis, they need to win in some fashion, in something they believe in. And the basic question is like, why does it have to be now for them? You could say why it would have to be now for a story. We'd love to have it happen so that we could say, okay, we spent months talking about Giannis. It would be nice to get resolution, but most people I talk to think that this happens in the offseason, which to your premise and the Mark Stein story, and something I've been talking about for over a year or so is that once the Lakers wanted Luka, Jokic, Giannis, they got Luka, right? So these are the names I've been talking about for a very long time. This is a franchise that goes star hunting, right or wrong. You could love or hate the Lakers or feel like they do it right or wrong. It doesn't matter. This is a team that goes after the big stars. So, yeah, they would definitely be in the conversation for Giannis. Whether they'd get it across the line this summer, that's a different question.
Okay, let's play this out here. So, I think there's, obviously an advantage for the Milwaukee Bucks to make a trade now. Maybe they think they could get more in the summer. How much leverage do they lose? I mean, I'll make the case that I think this is like a divorce that you knew was coming a year ago, and it was just a matter of time. Maybe a year ago is too long, but I think in the summer it was fair to say, could they have probably get the most amount of assets last summer rather than waiting for this upcoming summer? And I'll let you answer that question, and whether we know that we know that or not. But let me just get this one piece in. I'll just say that, what does it do for the Milwaukee Bucks from a positioning standpoint to have Giannis in the final year of his contract? Do they lose some leverage by the summer?
Yeah, I mean, I would have. I'm not in charge of the Bucks. To be honest, I don't think the general manager and basketball operations staff is necessarily in charge. I think the ownership is in charge. And I personally believe the directive has been keep Giannis at all costs, period. And with that in mind, if I'm in charge, I would have, the writing was on the wall like 2-3 years ago. By the time that Holiday and Middleton started to age out, I felt like it was time. And so they went and they swung on Damian Lillard. But like for me, when they made that move, I said at the time, like, you're losing arguably the best defensive backcourt partner in Drew for Dame, and I don't think that's going to work. And whatever, I think they should have done it years ago. And so I think they've dug a hole, or the analogy I was using is like they've there's scraped the bottom of the barrel, like they've chopped the barrel up for firewood. They put the barrel in the fireplace. It's ashes now, and then they've got like one of those like pizza, like I don't know, giant spatulas, I don't know what you call it, and they've scraped out the ashes, and then they're like, yeah, Giannis, this is our team. And it's like, yeah, no, they should have gotten out years ago, 1, 2, 3 years ago, but they didn't, and here we are. So now Giannis is saying, just yesterday he was saying, he'd love to stay here. His heart, he'd like to be here, but he also doesn't want to scrap for just to make the playoffs. So I think the nature of his contract, when a player is in the last year of their deal, like that is when they have the most leverage. You want to move them when they have 2 years left, which is now or this summer, or even earlier. And so it really depends on Giannis. And I'll just say that if we're assuming that he's the one who's saying, I need to leave, and if the Bucks ownership is saying we don't ever want to trade Giannis unless we have to, then does Giannis, he's forcing, if they're trading him, that premise is that he's forcing it. Is he a passenger in this ride where he's just going to go wherever they send him, or is he going to play hardball on some level? Again, Giannis probably not the one saying the difficult things. His agent, his representation would do that. But if you're trying to trade him, say, to the Wolves, does he want to go there? It sounds like he does. The buzz is he does.
Sure.
But does he leverage some other team and say, like, if they try to trade him somewhere else, he could say, I'm not going to go there. I'm only going to re-sign with the Wolves, all that kind of stuff. But that only goes so far because he needs to threaten with a team with cap room, which is where the Lakers at least have an advantage, where he could say, if you don't trade me to the Lakers now, I'll stay one more year with the Bucks and I'll just walk as a free agent.
Right.
Now, I don't know that that's happening. And I feel like right now that's a stretch, that's where Giannis is at. I don't think he's Lakers or bust. I've gotten no sense that that's what's happening. But if you're the Lakers, just like if you're the Knicks, if you're the Heat, if you're the Wolves, few other teams. You probably need to be positioned to go for it if he's available. Teams like the Spurs, Thunder, they honestly just don't need him. He's 31, 32 almost, slowing down a little bit. These franchises have all they need to compete for the next few years. Lakers don't have that. And it makes more sense for the Lakers to push their chips in because they're not really giving draft picks don't mean much. For if you can get Giannis and Luka and keep Austin if you could, you've got a great threesome right there. For Luka, you need the secondary creator and you need the defensive big. And yeah, they would still need role players and defense and figure out but it would be a pretty dynamic trio.
I got a ton of other questions. I just real quick, can you just explain how do they keep Reaves in that fold?
Well, I'd have to look at it, but just running it through the numbers.
From Milwaukee's perspective, like why would there be a scenario?
Well, again, it's how how much is LeBron? How much is Giannis leveraging the situation? How much is he pushing? And if the Lakers are offering 3 firsts, right now they're asking for 4 firsts and a young star. The Lakers can get to 4 firsts if you include swaps of some kind, right? So, and it's a little awkward for the Lakers because the Bucks owe a bunch of firsts and the Lakers owe a bunch of firsts, but they're in alternate years, so it's actually kind of difficult to match up the swaps. But that said, like the Thunder right now they have 3 firsts in this next draft, and there's a real path where the Lakers could trade a first to the Thunder and get 3 firsts. Like you could trade 20, 30, whatever, and get 3 immediate firsts from or 2. The Thunder aren't going to give up the Clippers pick, but they'll give up 2 others, which are in the 20s. So we're not talking great picks, but point being, there are pathways, right? As far as the cap room is concerned, the Lakers right now project with Austin has what's called a cap hold. So he has a number on the Lakers books. That number's 26.5. If you're Luka, Vanderbilt, and if Ayton opts out, which he reasonably will, or maybe he doesn't, but let's say he does, they could probably coerce or convince Marcus Smart to opt out with a promise of re-signing him with their room mid-level. So basically opt out and we'll pay you the same money or even a little bit more to come back. So there are ways they could trade Dalton Connect. We're assuming LeBron James is off their books. We're assuming they're trading their first. Very easily, you could get up to the number that Giannis actually makes, and they could just take him in, maybe trade Jared Vanderbilt. There are other ways to get to that number. So just saying, mathematically, it could be possible to just go to those 3 players. From there, it's like, yeah, you're pretty much minimums after that to flesh it out. That and probably keeping Marcus Smart. Maybe there's a way to keep Ayton. You're keeping LaRavia, Adu, who hasn't played really all year pretty much. So I don't want to paint a picture so Laker fans leave the show saying, oh yeah, the Lakers are going to go do this. I'm just saying, is it possible? Yes. Is it likely? Probably not. But there's a universe in which this could happen. And the last point is the assumption that they sign and trade Austin in a Giannis deal. Like, did anyone ask Austin about that? Like, he has all the power. He's going to sign where he's going to A, get the most money, and B, where he's going to be the most happy. And that might be in Los Angeles, but I don't assume that that's in Milwaukee post-trading Giannis. Like, yeah, so he can go be like, I don't know. It's been like 80 degrees during the day. And yeah, it's gotten down to 50 at night in LA lately. It's been so cold at night. And it's like, you look across, I don't know what the temperature is in Milwaukee, but I have a friend.
I don't think it's 80. I'm going to take a guess.
Friend there 2 weeks ago, and he said it was like 10. So, I'm not going to pencil in that Austin chooses the Bucks for a sign and trade. He might. I'm not saying he wouldn't, but I'm not going to assume that. And so, yeah, good question.
I will. Let's kind of, all these questions really can either get answered in the next day or so based off of what happens. Maybe Giannis just ends up with Minnesota and that's it. Conversation's over. Let's just talk about maybe what's a little bit more realistic right now. Are you surprised that we're a day from the deadline? And obviously seeing the Lakers and seeing the situation they're in and going up against some of the elite teams in the West or even just in the NBA, they struggle against. I think it's safe to say Lakers are not going to be a favorite if the playoffs started today. Surprised at all that they have not made a move? Or is this kind of like, yeah, based off of the assets that they have, the price to go get the type of players that they would need, or a player that they think, hey, that's a perfect 3-and-D guy that you can have with Luka for a couple of years? You surprised at all that no move has been made?
I mean, they did sign Kobe Buffkin to a 10-day contract, so it's not
Good
like they
point.
haven't done anything this year.
It's a good point. Yep.
The reality is, for the Lakers, if you look at the West and you look at the Thunder, the goal is to catch the Thunder and to beat the Thunder and to win the title, right? So is there a move that can do that can substantially do that? And the reality is probably not. So you reverse engineer. Like if they're not making a move that puts them over the threshold, or at least makes them feel like they have a real shot, then the question then becomes, what is the pathway to that? And they could try to trade LeBron, but LeBron has a no trade clause. He's also making $50-something million, which is movable and complex, but challenging. And quadruply challenging with the no trade clause, because they can't just, with Jimmy Butler last year, at least, he wanted to go to the Warriors. The Warriors wanted him there. The Heat wanted him out. And so there was motivation all the way around. I don't know that same motivation exists. The Cavaliers trading for James Harden probably means there's no Cavaliers trade, which is a popular question that I get. Why don't they just trade him to the Cavs? I've gotten early on in the year, why don't they trade him to Dallas to play with AD? Well, AD's been hurt and the Mavericks are pretty lousy. So there's not a lot there. And so our supposition is that this is LeBron's last year with the Lakers. That's the intel. That's what I've heard. There's no fact involved. We don't know what's going to happen ultimately, but that's my working theory. And then with that in mind, they have all this cap room. They have these picks. They could go after players like Trey Murphy. They can go after players like, obviously Giannis or whatever. Like there are pathways forward that could land them a higher stratosphere player. I say Trey Murphy because he is, for a player as productive as he is, he's also relatively cheap. He's in the 20s, the high 20s, but like relative to going after a $50 million player, if you get someone who's making 20 something, that opens up the flexibility maybe to keep Ayton as you need a center, or if they want to upgrade at center, if there is an upgrade to have, these kind of questions. And then when that's the big move. The smaller moves are like, you're not going to get an upgrade over Austin. They would rather keep Austin. Gabe Vincent, Maxi Kleba, Dalton Connect, Jared Vanderbilt, like they need more defense like Vanderbilt, not less. And so, I just think that they have to incentivize teams to take those players. Those players don't have an individual demand. And like, I'm sure there's a pathway to move Dalton Connect. Like I'm sure a team like the Nets or something like that would take, something like that. But
sure,
they're not getting substantial return back. Like, could you do Day'Ron Sharpe for Dalton Connect? I think that's a reasonably possible pathway, but that's not going to put you over the top. And so I just think, and again, like you trade the one first that they have, does a Herb Jones, who, by the way, shot really well for 1 year in his entire career, otherwise has not shot well and is very durable. Do you give up your single first right now, when they're asking for 2, by the way,
Sure.
But let's say that they take 1. Like, what does that do? Like, now when you get to the summer and you have an opportunity maybe to do more, you've spent your money on Herb Jones, and he doesn't necessarily put you over that threshold where you're competing at the highest level.
What do you think it says if they don't make a move like you just mentioned? Let's just kind of play out what you just said. Is there a little bit of, hey, that's responsible from the Lakers to say this isn't the time? Not only are you competing with the Oklahoma City Thunder, but there are other teams that are really, really good in the Western Conference that, if you're thinking big picture here, would it indicate to you that there's whether you want to call it responsibility, whether you want to call it new ownership stepping in and saying, let's hold on to these assets. We need these assets. What would it indicate to you?
Well, on the new ownership front, I'm going to go with the working assumption that Jeannie is in charge for 5 years, and Rob, being her general manager, is in charge for 5 years. And usually when there's new ownership, there is a shift, and it's reasonably possible that that shift happens before 5 years, but it's more of a rarity for it to shift in year one. And it's like we're halfway through. It's not even a year. I don't know how many months from when it actually closed. So was it December? So maybe half an NBA year. That's not even. And so I wouldn't say that new ownership is a significant factor. It certainly could be. But no, yes, it's probably more responsible to think bigger picture. And there's a tendency for folks to just, I'm not a hater. I'm not going to they're not making moves for the sake of making moves to, fake improve. I don't see the rationale of that unless if there was a great opportunity. Now, I'm also not going to be naive and say they've done a great job. They did box themselves into this particular path, but then they also got Luka. You know what I mean? So they've done great things, and they've done really unimpressive things throughout the year, trading for Russ and then having to unwind the trade for Russ. I've got a long list of moves that I didn't particularly care for, and I don't think they've been good around the margins, but here we are. And so, we do you lambast that they gave up all their championship death to get Russell Westbrook today when you're trying to improve now, or do you let the past go and focus on who you are now and try to improve now? So I think there's a level of responsibility where they're not just fake trying to improve just to win a press conference. What would the point of that be other than 5 minutes of cool, they made a trade? It's exciting. Everyone loves trades, whether you love to hate the trade or you love to, you love the trade, it's still fun. But I don't think they're in the business of just having fun. They're in the business of trying to win. And if there's no real pathway forward, I don't think the fans want to hear that. You want to root for a team that has a chance to actually win. And Lakers don't have zero chance to win this year, but it's a lower chance. Their depth is, questionable. Their health has not been great. Maybe Austin coming back. We really haven't seen this team at full strength, but for I agree. Really 0 games, because even if it's been a couple of games at full strength, when guys just return from injury, they're not their full selves yet. So even Austin probably needs a good 2, 3, 4 weeks before he's really back to who he is, especially when you have a leg injury. You can't stay in condition the way you need to. So I'm excited to see what happens. I mean, I enjoy the journey as much as, fans want to always win, and I respect that. But I enjoy the whole process of year after year, seeing how the team ebbs and flows.
What would justify, and then I got a couple NBA questions for you, and I appreciate your time as always, Eric. What would justify, you think? Dan Weike had wrote an article, I don't know if it was this morning or last night, and I'm going to read you a piece of this, and I'm just curious. He's talking about Giannis's, if he does get traded, the ripple effects and how the Lakers could potentially benefit off of that. He says, as teams maneuver for financial flexibility, Lakers' expiring deals and future first-round picks could get them in conversations for high-end role players like Minnesota's Dante DiVincenzo or Cleveland's Jarrett Allen. I'm gonna using those names as examples. What do you think would justify, hey, let's give up that first-round pick that we have. Let's get some of that. Yes, we got some expiring contracts. In a world where you're trying to accomplish the goals that you're talking about of, well, don't make a move just to make a move to win a press conference, and thinking big picture, what do you think would justify trading that first round pick?
So the way I like to think about team building is who needs to be on your team in 2 years? If you're a GM or an owner, who needs to be on your team in 2 years? And those who don't, what is the exit strategy so that you can get the most out of that? Maybe it's let everyone leave and go with the cap room, or maybe it's replace them. So if you're trying to replace them, right? So you mentioned all the players on expirings. If you're Austin and if you're Luka, and if those are like the two guys that you say you need to have on your team, then the question is what do you need to support them so they can win at the highest level? And your ball handling, creation, shot making is really fundamentally, you're starting at a stronger point than almost any team in the league. Not all, not number one, but like in the top 5 or 10 or wherever we want to say. But defensively, it's not great. And so you're going to need guys like Jaden McDaniels, and you're going to need a center who can protect the rim. And maybe that's Ayton. Maybe it's not. These are decisions the team has to make. Is he the guy who can be that force for the next several years? I think LaRavia does he need to be on the team in 2 years? No, but he is helpful, and I think he fits. But otherwise, there's probably no one else. You need Ayton or you need a replacement. You need more big wings and defenders. And it would probably be good to have some level of scoring from the front court. So that would be like a Trey Murphy, that would be an incredible offensive team. Like, it would be really hard to stop Luka, Austin, and Trey Murphy offensively. Defensively, you'd have issues. But offensively, and at least Trey makes less money, so you have more flexibility to fill it in. Like Jarrett Allen, if the Lakers player evaluation says he's the guy who would be locked in at that center spot and they feel he's a better choice than Ayton, then that would be your answer. Like, you're saying you're filling in that position. He's the person who would need to be on the team in 2 years on a roster built around them that could compete at the highest level. If I don't know that I agree with that, but I could at least understand that. Like Dante DiVincenzo, sure. Like, the Lakers are definitely in a position to help another team, but there are other teams that are also in positions to help other teams that don't have to send salary back. And that's kind of the difference, right? Like, the Jazz had an $18 million trade exception. They used some of that to make some moves to help certain teams shed money. That's kind of where things are at. I'd have to go through and see how things have shifted in the last day or so, but the Lakers can give expirings. Expirings are like B-level cap relief nowadays. Trade exceptions, cap room, the mid-level exception, because years ago you couldn't use the mid-level exception. That's like the biggest spending tool. Let's say you have $14 million to spend. You can actually use that now to acquire a player via trade. So that means you don't have to send anybody out. It doesn't really apply to the Lakers. They use theirs on Ayton and LaRavia, but other teams have that. So expiring contracts aren't what they used to be, just based on the system. So yes, the Lakers are in position. If a team needs to move somebody, I think Kuminga makes some sense. I don't love Kuminga, but if the Warriors are thinking, oh, like Rui Hachimura can shoot the ball and can fit what we need him to do, and with Dalton, they get I have to go through the math, but let's say it was like Dalton and Rui, and they get Jonathan Kuminga. The advantage for the Lakers is you could see for the rest of the year if he is a fit, and we could debate. Again, I'm not debating the player value. You don't like Kuminga, you think it's a terrible idea, that's fine. I'm just saying the Lakers would have to decide he's worth looking at and see if he fits. I don't think he's a great defender, but maybe he can show something that they need. He has a team option next year, so it doesn't hurt their flexibility. And the advantage is that maybe going with cap room isn't the way for the Lakers. And if you opt Kuminga in at $24 million, you can trade him again. And he has no say in that, and he's an expiring. So that's the kind of thing that, if you're not giving up your first, sure. I don't think Kuminga warrants a first. And we can go through like every team. I could find a player here or there that, like, sure, Haywood Highsmith, who hasn't played all year, you might be able to get him for Maxey. Like, sure, like if there was just like a Maxey and Dalton, maybe you get Day'Ron Sharp. Like, I could come up with nonsense that I'm making up. These are not aggregation things. Like, this is just me, whatever.
Sure.
I'm sure we could find something. Lakers just have to weigh the pros and the cons. I think their priority is to preserve their flexibility this summer. And I think that's fair. And I don't think that if there was someone who said, the Plink is asleep at the wheel type suggestion. And then maybe that's true. Maybe that's not. I can't speak to that, but I can say that like them not doing anything doesn't definitively say that to me. It says that like there was no move. It's you don't have a move to win. So why make a move that's lateral that hurts your flexibility and takes you steps away from that? So to your question, I think that there are players that make sense. I don't know that those players happen in the next day or two, primarily because the Lakers don't have a ton that they're willing to give, and they probably shouldn't.
That's a very, very, very good way to explain what could potentially happen, right? Like, I think we could be sitting here. Don't be shocked if the Lakers are sitting here in the next day or so and they don't make a move. Eric, this is perfect, man. I'm always kind of curious to get your thoughts because I know your levels of understanding some of the contracts and why this makes sense, why it doesn't make sense. It's very helpful. And of course, as always, I really appreciate your insight.
I appreciate it. Always happy to help. I'm excited to see how it all plays out.
Sure.
Enjoy the journey is really, to me, that's the joy of it. And I think it's been a fun year. I think Laker fans are spoiled in the best way, in that they're used to their team winning at the highest level. So I wouldn't ask them to be different. But unfortunately, it does take time. And there was a nice long run from when Shaq left to when the Lakers won with Pau, right? And then there was an even longer run when they won with LeBron. So, it's the nature of things. So
yeah, 5 years to the Lakers is like 25 years for other franchises. So I don't think Laker fans fully understand that, but or they're like you said, spoiled might be the right word, but in a good way. Appreciate the time, brother. Let's connect again as we get closer to the playoffs. All right.
Yes, sir. All right, man. Talk soon.
All right. That's Eric Pincus right there. Good stuff from him. Appreciate him joining the show. And of course, just exactly what we were kind of looking for. I mean, listen, I think you could play out all these different scenarios, no question about it. I think the chat, it's kind of interesting towards the end there. I think what he was saying about, I'll use as an example, Jonathan Kuminga or Jarrett Allen or Dante DiVincenzo. That's the one thing that I really, really couldn't agree more with. Now, I think it's still going to take you a first rounder, no question about it, if you're going to go get players like that. Maybe not. Maybe just depending on depending on which player that we're talking about. But I think at the end of the day, that's the biggest question. Can you have a player that's there that you think is going to be a part of the future? And if it is, then it's okay to give up that first rounder. And if you don't think that that's the case, then might as well hold on to that first rounder. What he said too, do you want to make a deal just to make a deal? There's no point of the Lakers doing that, and do it because you feel like it's the right move. All right, let's just say I got a lot of comments I got to go through here. All right, let me see here. I got a couple. Let me get a couple of these supers in here real quick. Slee, been listening to you since your early days at 710. Keep up the great work. If LA could get Giannis with Luka, you do it. No question about it. Absolutely, 100%. I'm with you on that. And we'll see if they're able to do that in the summer. And listen, we're going to find out in the next less than, we're going to find out in the next 28 hours, 27 hours, whatever it is, if they're going to have a shot at Giannis or not. And the way we're going to find that out is because the Bucks either didn't trade him or they traded him. If they trade him by the time tomorrow's deadline comes, then we're all kind of wasting our time. It's not a conversation. Mustang Mike, I appreciate the super brother. Thank you very much for throwing in that 7 spot. Appreciate the compliments as well. Thank you. Let's get another one here. Giannis and Luka versus LeBron and AD is twofold. From a business standpoint, the price, Giannis would be a free agent. On the court, Luka is a killer. John Wayne, I appreciate the super as well. Listen, you can I don't know if we got to compare superstars, but let's just say this. LeBron and AD was an unbelievable combination because those two players really complemented each other. LeBron could have the ball in his hands. He could set up Anthony Davis. AD could be the best player on the floor offensively or defensively on any given night. Luka and Giannis, listen, again, I'm not trying to make a case that that's going to happen, but what I'm trying to tell you is that Mark Stein said it's viable, that there is a chance if you can get past the deadline, if those two are on the same floor together. I mean, I don't know what you want me to tell you, but you're going to have Giannis for the first time in his career, is not asked to do everything, is going to be able to play kind of free safety as a defensive player, would be an unbelievable fit with Luka, and then Luka will be walking into his prime. So a couple of supers there. I appreciate you guys chiming in, and thank you very much for offering those. Let's get another one here. Number one, Rob Pelinka has proven 5 years he can't get the right pieces. Didn't do it with LeBron. 3 picks for a 31-year-old with injuries piling up. Get young around Luka. I don't think they're going to get that young around Luka. I think they're going to try winning now. And I think there's a little bit of, I think this kind of comes with the territory, but I think there's a little bit of, yeah, they will, this isn't a team that's trying to build with young players. They're trying to win right now. And I don't think that usually matches together that you're trying to win right now. So let's go get all these young pieces. Doesn't mean you can't get young pieces around Luka, but you also want guys that are ready to try to win right now. Luka's already been to the Western Conference Finals. He's already been to the NBA Finals, and he damn sure is not a Los Angeles Laker to be hanging out in the first or second round in the Western Conference. So I think that part is safe to say. Thank you for all the supers. I appreciate it. F the picks, championship or bust. Fair enough, but not yet. The question is more not just about. It's less about championship or bust, but when is your championship window? Is there anybody that's on this chat or has watched a good amount of Laker games this year that think the Lakers are in a championship window? Of course they're not. The question is, when is it a championship or bust? The Oklahoma City Thunder are in a championship or bust. The New York Knicks are in a championship or bust. The Cavs probably in a championship or bust. The Denver Nuggets, championship or bust. The Houston Rockets. There's certain teams out there that are like, yeah, we're all in right now. The Lakers just don't have the pieces to have that conversation. I love when I get these. Great guests, great conversation. I love when I get these. Obviously you try to be very strategic when we have guests on. I love Eric Pincus, so I'm glad that you guys like that conversation. Oh, man, it's a lot. I told you guys, there was a lot going on today. That's a lot of comments, guys. It's a lot of comments. I don't know how I'm going to go back on all that stuff. I don't think I'm going to be able to. I'll let everybody just yell at each other for a little bit. That's usually my game plan when I get overwhelmed with comments, is just let everybody yell at each other. Okay, let's get into a few other topics here. I got some NBA news I'm going to hit on. We're going to call it a day after that. Let's do this here real quick. Couple things I just want to make mention of. Go back to that Jarrett Allen thing for just a quick second. That conversations, if Giannis trade happens, can the Lakers capitalize? Just some quick info on Jarrett Allen. He hits free agency in the summer of 2029, so you got this dude for a while. $28 million, $30 million, $32 million, so he's going to be on your team for a while. 14 points a game, 8 rebounds. Look, I think Jarrett Allen's a really nice player. I think the fact that you would own his rights for X amount of years is a good thing. This is the type of player that the Lakers, again, we'll see what happens with Giannis and how much flexibility that the Lakers want to have, but Jarrett Allen's a good player in the NBA, and I definitely think would be an upgrade from what the Lakers have. Again, he's not a guy that you could throw the ball to and just say, go get me a bucket. That's not going to be his role, but certainly Jarrett Allen has a lot of value in the league. There's another article out here. Dan Wyke put this out there. I'm just going to read this piece here. No big surprise or shock, but I'm going to read this. Najee Marshall has also generated interest around the Lakers. Though the pathways to any deal with the Dallas Mavericks after the Luka Doncic trade last season have gigantic road closed signs all over them, the same is probably true for Daniel Gafford. Basically, what Dan Wyke's trying to say there is, ain't no deal happening between the Lakers and the Dallas Mavericks for a long time. I agree with that. And if I'm the front office of the Dallas Mavericks, the last thing that I'm trying to do is go tell my fans we made another deal with the Lakers, especially if it's a Daniel Gafford or even a Najee Marshall. I think that'd be a bad look. I don't know if you guys saw this as well. Again, another piece of the article that Dan Wyke put out there, a really good article he put out in The Athletic. It was about Dalton Connect, and I'm not going to spend too much time on this. What's the quote that was used here in regards to Dalton Connect? Basically, that he has not asked for a trade, but that he would welcome a fresh start. Kind of rooting for Dalton Connect to get on another team, if I'm being honest with everybody. I think that might be beneficial to everybody to have him eventually get on another squad. We saw some of the trades yesterday. James Harden to Cleveland, Darius Garland to the Cavs, or to the Clippers. Good move for the Clippers, I think. You get a young 26-year-old I think they know that realistically they got to start kind of building for what's next. Clippers team was playing a lot better, but I don't think anybody was going to really think that they were going to get past one of these elite teams in the Western Conference. And we'll see what happens for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Probably gives them, I think, a better shot this year to come out of the Eastern Conference. Short term, it makes sense, but long term, do you really want to pay 2 years, $80 million for James Harden? I wouldn't at this stage. He's 36 years old. Okay. Last thing I'm going to do here, and I'm just going to point out a couple things around the NBA, and we'll see if anything else cooking. Anything else happen here? All right. Just got to make sure. Sometimes I feel like when I'm doing the show, I'm like, did a trade go down? Did something happen? Some scores for tonight. So Lakers don't have another game until tomorrow. Denver dropped a couple games in a row here. Lakers kind of making a little bit of strides here. The Lakers actually have a chance. It's an interesting night tonight. Denver's playing the Knicks. Knicks are playing really good basketball. By the way, badass game. And Nuggets lost yesterday against the Pistons. Timberwolves have lost a couple games in a row. They got the Toronto Raptors. Celtics are playing the Rockets. So there are three teams. Oh, and Thunder got the Spurs tonight as well. That's a game on ESPN. Why do I mention all this? Lakers can kind of gain some ground in the standings without even playing a game. So some potential there for the Lakers. We'll see if that happens or if it doesn't. All right, final couple of comments we're going to call it a day. Unlike the Lakers, Clippers didn't fold to Harden $40 million, unlike Lakers did to a 41-year-old Braun for $52 million. Yeah, I mean, listen, this is what I would say about, I think people that give Lakers shit for giving LeBron a 1+1, what do you want them to do? I mean, how do you not give LeBron a 1+1 2 years ago and let him make a decision if he's going to opt into a second year? I mean, is anybody not giving him that deal? I think they are. By the way, Anthony Davis was still around. So I got a difficult time thinking that most people wouldn't do that. Mavericks won't deal with the Lakers. Absolutely not. By the way, I will tell you this. Hypothetically, if the Dallas Mavericks made another deal with the Los Angeles Lakers, then I'm going into a whole different level of conspiracy theories. I already got my conspiracy theories. That's enough. No more. Ownership has work to do, empty next year, and have nobody on contract, just Luka. The one thing that I will say that he mentioned, Eric Pincus, about, I'm going to take, obviously Lakers' word for it, 5 years of Jeannie Buss running the Lakers. She's the one that hired Rob Pelinka. I really, really, really hope new ownership's got their fingerprints on everything. Lakers need it. I get it. Maybe part of this deal, that's what this all weighed in on. And Mark Walter and his group is like, all right, well, if that's what we have to do, that's what we have to do. But at the end of the day, I don't think anybody does not want new ownership to have a say or have their fingerprints all over this organization. So every move that they make moving forward. All right, phenomenal show, everybody. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. If something goes down, like I mentioned a little bit earlier, if something goes down today or the Lakers do something, I'll just go back on and we'll just go live again. But for now, if this is it for today, then I'll be back on tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. And I think what I'm going to do tomorrow is I'm going to do my regular show 8 to 9. And then I'll probably come back on tomorrow at about 1 o'clock to do a post-trade deadline. Nothing happened, get kind of everybody's reaction and thoughts. And then we'll do the post-game show after the Lakers take on the Philadelphia 76ers. I appreciate you guys being a part of the show. Please subscribe to the channel if you don't mind. And thank you very much for really just supporting the channel in any way possible. Hope you guys have a great rest of your Wednesday. And like I said, if anything goes down, then I'll come back on a little bit later today. If not, I'll see you in the morning at 8 a.m. Have a great rest of your day and have a great morning.